tremendous sculptor. And it's not generally known that he actually designed a number of small residential dwellings with Edith Marion, the sculptor. And she was very fond of bay windows. So that's a piece of fact that's very interesting. But of course, he's most famous for that amazing building in Switzerland that he built out of wood. It was carved out of many different kinds of wood, and it had organic metamorphic forms inside and out. It had light coming in through colored windows, colored motifs painted on domed ceilings. And there's this remarkable convergence of two domes in an intersection that still mystifies architects to this day. And these two domes were over two axes. So if you can imagine two circles intersecting over the cross of the four directions. And it's interesting to go back in his biography and find experiences that he worked through to build the capacities that he needed to have to build that building. And already at age 9, he was working through geometry as a bridge to the spirit and to the inner experiences that he was having, and also to the nature forms around him. He had a deep connection to the elemental forces in the forests and the mountains around the villages where he grew up in southern Austria. And intruding into that wilderness was coming technology in the form of a railway. And his father was a telegraphist and station master. And at age 10, Rudolf Steiner was learning, about electricity, about the telegraph, and he had all kinds of machines around him. As we heard this morning, that dichotomy of nature and technology was in his life right there from the start. And his father wanted him to become an engineer. So as we heard this morning, he went to a science-oriented high school and then to a technical college in Vienna, where he learned his physics and his chemistry and his mathematics and mechanics. And because he was scientifically trained, by age 22, he was asked to edit and introduce the scientific works of Goethe, who had researched light and color and the metamorphosis of organic forms. And working through Goethe actually for 13 or 14 years opened up capacities in him that he says in his autobiography he wouldn't have had. He already had special capacities, but he said working through Goethe widened them. And at age 29, he was asked to join the prestigious archive in Weimar called the Goethe-Schiller Archive. And it's interesting that he had also been working through the works of Schiller for many years too. And Schiller was this creative friend and collaborator of Goethe around 1800, decades before Steiner. And Schiller was exploring what it meant to be a truly free, playfully creative human being. And he had this picture or this model of humanness emerging free and creative between the extremes of one-sided intelligence on the one hand and one-sided instinct and bodily desires on the other. And Schiller was known as a philosopher of freedom. And it was at this time that Rudolf Steiner, working in the archives, completed his own philosophy of freedom. And now we have to go quickly, because we only have a few minutes. We have to jump 2 decades now, when Rudolf Steiner, with an international team of volunteers and workers, is creating this amazing building of organic forms and of
There it is.
and of color, and of light. And we can pass this around. And we always have plenty of literature. When he's creating this, and it's almost finished, he calls it Begrüße Annum, in recognition of